Chair, that is the stream live.
Thank you very much indeed. First of all, apologies. Could I ask if there's any apologies?
Apologies from Councillor Mackle.
Thank you. No other apologies. Declarations of interest, where we can take those from the floor, or else are you happy enough to take them as we go along the meeting? Yeah.
Chair, can I just, for 7.2, just note that I'm a member of Banbridge NI?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Keating. Okay. Agenda item number 3 now, which is a presentation, and I think we're just waiting for our guests to come in. So we've got I'll just leave it just for a moment until our guests, Seamus and Stephen, come into the meeting. They're just joining now. Okay, I think they should be with us now. Yeah, it's a presentation from Logistics UK, and Stephen and Seamus are here this evening. Seamus, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you there, Brian. Thanks.
Okay, great to see you both. And I'll just hand it over to you directly for your presentation.
Okay, I think, do you have the presentation there, Brian? I did share it, but I can maybe get it up here and share the screen.
Carol, do you have the presentation there?
No, I understood they were going to share it themselves.
Okay, bear with me here. I'll just get it here.
If you could, Seamus, that would be great.
If Stephen wants to go first, just while I get this up.
I'll just check. No. Stephen, are you online? Yes?
Yeah, I am, Brian, yeah.
Okay. Steve, if I could maybe hand over to you first, Stephen.
Yeah, okay, no problem. Okay, firstly, I'd like to thank the council for recognising the haulage sector within the borough for being a key sector. The haulage sector, within the borough, it provides numerous opportunities, both directly and indirectly, with a vast range of business sizes and service providers, all serving the sector. Currently, we're facing a lot of challenges. Brexit has had a severe impact on the haulage sector. There's increased bureaucracy and customs procedures that had a detrimental impact on the sector. There's increased pressure and workload on a business sector that is already facing a skills shortage. There has been a lack of support and aid that has been driven by EU directives in the past that has seen the sector neglected. So we've had to be sort of self-sufficient, and fight our own corner within that there. A lot of haulage businesses operate with small profit margins, typically as low as 2 to 5% on a net profit margin. So the difficulties that COVID and Brexit has presented at the moment has seen some businesses operating at a loss. But in saying that, there within the borough, we've probably some of the biggest and most successful haulage businesses on the island of Ireland, and probably within the UK. We've over 250 businesses in the ABC council area, and they would employ tens of thousands of people within the sector. There is certain opportunities that do present themselves within the haulage sector, jobs creation and redeployment of workers from certain sectors. Our own business in particular, we have actually engaged with the aerospace industry, and we've actually taken on some people that have been made redundant within that sector. So there is always opportunities. It is a big sector, and it is constantly growing, albeit the sector has seen a lot of shortages within HGV drivers, transport planners, office admin staff, and there's no current education programme within NI, which isn't helping the shortages within the sector. So it is an ageing workforce, and I do believe there is a big opportunity that could present itself to engage with the sector, to look about controlling unemployment levels. Also within the ABC council area, I believe we're strategically located because it allows the haulage sector to both serve NI ports and Dublin. So if people are actually using the Dublin Holyhead route, I believe the borough provides them, with a strategic advantage as opposed to businesses maybe in other more northerly locations. So there is, as I have touched on there, the sector has been self-sustaining. There hasn't been any support. We do welcome the engagement from the council to recognise that there. And I would probably just like to offer further assistance with the council. Our own business, we're kind of independent with a vast range of haulage customers, both large and small. So we do have a good feel for what's open and relevant, within the sector at any given point in time.
Thank you very much indeed, Stephen. Seamus, do you want to go through your presentation first before we can sort of open it out for comments
Sure.
and questions?
Yeah, I'll just share my screen here now, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, can you see that okay?
Yes, we can indeed, yes.
Okay. First of all, yes, thanks very much, Chairman. And my name's Seamus Lehenny. I work for Logistics UK. We represent the logistics industry. It's road, air, sea, and unfortunately rail in GB, but not here because we don't do rail freight anymore. But we have about 18,000 members across the UK. 400 of our members are based here in Northern Ireland. And then we have our sister association based in Dublin, FTA Ireland, that represent the industry down there as well. Obviously, I think as Stephen says there, Brexit and the protocols caused a fundamental change how we move goods. Really since 2016 and beforehand, we've said no matter what type of outcome or deal that we faced when Brexit was sorted, that there was going to be a fundamental change about how we move goods in and out of the United Kingdom. So a bit about what I thought, Chair. I'll just run through some key points, some discussion points, and then I think the best way for myself and Stephen then to run through the Q&A then with the members here.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Generally, what I've looked at here is just Northern Ireland, Great British trade, because that's really what's affecting really what comes under the remit of the protocol here. So we can see there where we're looking at the imports are on the left-hand side. So we can see just over £10.5 billion. Now this is 2017 figures. It's the most up-to-date that we had when we were doing this last year, but £10.5 billion coming from GB. And I would probably stipulate the key point to note there is at the bottom, you can see 65% of those goods that we get from GB. That's actually produce that's for the local wholesale and retail businesses. So 65% of what we take in here from GB is more or less destined for the high street and the corner shops. So it's goods coming in here for hospitality, for stores, whether it's food, clothing, electrical goods. Coming in there from the Republic of Ireland is the next biggest source of products that we bring in, just over 2.25 billion. The key thing in there is that 70% of the produce we bring in from the Republic of Ireland is what we class as intermediate products. So that's ingredients and components. So what we're doing, we're not bringing in primarily finished products from the Republic of Ireland. It's bits and pieces of stuff that we use to make that what constitutes our exports. So a typical example would be you could have an agri-food business based in the Borough that's making cottage pies, and they may well have some of the mints and the carrots could come from the Republic of Ireland to make up the ingredients of what they make. And then you can see the rest of it then, basically the rest of the world, 2 billion, EU 1.9. Exports on the other side, you can see there obviously we take in more from GB than what we sell. And primarily, it's a big area obviously within the Borough of yourselves is agri-food's probably our biggest exports going to GB. It's a huge industry for us. It's roughly around about, you can see their manufactured goods make up 68% of what we're selling. And the majority of that there's agri-food produce. And I think what Stephen mentioned there as well is that Dublin Holyhead, some people often wonder if they're not familiar with logistics, why do we use Dublin so much when we've got perfectly good ports up the road in Belfast? It's that time. It's the time of getting to Dublin quickly down the motorway. You've got maybe about less than a 3-hour sailing time into Holyhead in northwest Wales. And then you're quickly across from Holyhead over to the M6 there at Chester. So basically, if I'm a food production company in Armagh and I've got a client like Marks and Spencer's, I need to get their goods to their distribution centres in the south of England as quickly as possible. And Dublin Holyhead is the route for that. When I speak to people like the Northern Ireland Food and Drink and Northern Ireland Meat Exporters Association, even just speaking to our members, roughly around about half of the agri-food that we produce in Northern Ireland goes through Dublin Holyhead to get to that valuable south of England market. And you can see there the routes there. So what type of shipping volumes do we look at out of Northern Ireland? So you can see coming in from GB 2019, you're looking at a total of 425,000 trailers or lorries coming in. Belfast makes up is the biggest carrier. That's 65% of the goods come in via Belfast, and more or less it's pretty much mirrored going out the way for export wise as well. And then basically, what are we looking at here? So what are we faced with when we're taking goods from GB in? So you can see there that we've got the security declarations. They apply to all goods sent from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. Tariffs may need to be paid on goods deemed at risk, and that's something probably I think Stephen would be well placed to talk about the supplementary declaration. Stephen, as he's taken up a lot of your days recently, and that is where the EU tariff on some products may well need to be paid on goods brought into Northern Ireland. That tariff isn't paid to the EU, it's paid to HMRC, who collect that money and keep that money. It's to ensure there's a level playing field. And what we need to ensure is that the bare minimum of goods coming in that are deemed at risk of ending up in the Republic of Ireland pay that. And then you can see the big one here is the food and agricultural products. And that's where the real the administration burden has been on companies at the moment moving food into Northern Ireland, because that requires an extra layer of paperwork. So for everything coming in, there's the customs declarations, the Trader Support Service manages, or people like Stephen and brokers helping businesses do that. But also, if you're bringing in food, then you have to comply. If you're bringing in chilled meats, for example, you need an export health certificate in GB. But also, everything, all products of plant and animal origin have to adhere to a STAM NI procedures, which involves pre-notification to DERA, just letting them know about what type of food commodities is coming in, who sent it, and where it's going to. The key points from the protocol at the moment, so the SPS movements, which I mentioned there, the biggest problems we have there at the moment, it's around about the pre-notifications. Now, in early January, that was a big problem. It's not so much now. Where DERA officials at the 3 ports here, they need advance notice of food arriving into Larne, Warrenpoint and Belfast, a minimum 4-hour notice. In the early days of January, not all businesses were doing that. And then there's an IT system, Traces, for managing that, seals being on the trailers or pallets for groupage, and also the official veterinarian availability in GB to sign off on any paperwork, such as the chilled meats, etc. Simplification options we've been looking at. Groupage was a problem. It still is a problem. We are trialing solutions to this at the moment. It's still a work in progress, and we're trying to refine this with DERA and DEFRA on this as well. There was certainly a member of ours based in your borough that was pivotal in working with ourselves and DERA in a solution for the groupage model, and they have to be applauded for that as well. And we do have a large haulage business in the borough is taking part in trial loads of groupage food materials coming into Northern Ireland as well. So it's moving relatively well, but it's very administration heavy. And we're working with IT facilitators with the Trader Support Service to try and refine that as well. The current grace periods, this has somewhat been updated since Friday. So on the SPS products, technically from the 1st of April, all food coming in had to have an export health certificate, which is going to be a huge level of administration for anyone moving food in here. The UK government took a unilateral decision last week that they will extend that grace period until the 1st of October. Now, we've been pressing, we've been saying that was required. Businesses here didn't have the necessary time to adjust to this. Unfortunately, it was a unilateral decision. We would have wished the EU to have moved faster on that. Things were moving slow, so the UK took the decision to make that unilateral declaration. On parcels and post, all parcels at the moment are exempt from customs declarations. The only parcels that have to make a declaration are those going from business to business over the value of £135, and that declaration can be made 3 months after the date of delivery to Northern Ireland. For everything else, for individuals like ourselves who go online and buy something, we're exempt from customs, but that waiver, and I have to point out, that wasn't a grace period. The media was calling it a grace period. The grace periods were agreed between the EU and the UK. The exemption from customs on parcels was a waiver by the UK government. It wasn't agreed. But nevertheless, the EU were letting it fly. That has again been pushed out to the 1st of October, which was needed. All of our members are all the express parcel carriers, and we've been working with HMRC. There is a software upgrade, but it isn't due to Q4 of this year as well. And then finally, on the restricted and prohibited goods, that's your sausages, your minced meat. That's due to expire on the 1st of July, where technically you'd hear the example of people saying about not being able to get your British bangers in supermarkets in Northern Ireland. That will, from what we gather, still come into play on the 1st of July. And there is no way around that for retailers. There's going to have to be the case of many retailers are going to have to look for substitute products based here in Northern Ireland. We have seen some retailers make that move where they are contracting the supply of certain products to local producers. But at the moment, we don't see a solution to that at the moment. So I think on the last thing, we did survey our members recently. You can see there, this question, I thought this was key just to highlight. We asked our members here locally who are involved in moving goods from GB to Northern Ireland, when or how do you expect to get back to your previous freight volumes pre-2021? So you can see there, 42% of our members here who responded to the survey said that they don't expect to go back to their previous volumes. The rest of them are either unaffected or they expect to get back to those volumes soon. So that's quite a big figure. That's something, that grey 42%, that's what we need to improve. We need to get those businesses back to their previous volumes that they were looking at. Or at least if they lose the volumes on GB to NI, that they make up for it with domestic volumes here in Northern Ireland. I'll not go in too much for the potential derogations. These are some of the things we've recommended. Like I said, we've been working with the UK government on this and with the Commission. You would hear things about derogation, like a trusted trader scheme for Northern Ireland. The one thing that we would promote would be an audited movement system. So this would be for, let's say, any wholesalers, retailers, or any business that wants to be accredited. Is that whereby if you become accredited in a trusted trader scheme, your goods get light touch administration and no checks on leaving GB bound for Northern Ireland. And that's something that we're really trying to push the Commission on to accepting. And also with the UK government, with obviously coming up with IT solutions, and businesses here would obviously be treated almost like a VAT returns. So you would go with evidence on an annual basis showing that this is how we comply. We ensure our goods aren't leaving Northern Ireland that come in under this scheme, and full traceability of your supply chain. And we think that would be a fair solution. I don't think the vast majority of produce coming into Northern Ireland is any threat to the EU single market at all. And a scheme like that would prove that to the Commission. So that's all from me, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Seamus and Stephen. and really highlighting, you know, the scale of the challenge. If I could just offer a short question first, is really, as things stand at the moment, in terms of the declarations and processes, I mean, how much of this is actually electronic and how much is this paperwork? I mean, how much scope is there for improvement? Seamus, if you could.
Yeah, I suppose, Chair, a lot of it is electronic. I think Stephen would be able to work through how it works, but the vast majority of this yet is online. People are either given their brokers like Stephen the data to submit on their behalf, or they're going online and they're using IT systems to do this themselves. There's very little paper involved in this, and really the only actually bit of paper that you physically need in anything is anything moving under transit. Is that if I'm moving something from Northern Ireland, let's say going to Belgium, I move that under a T2 transit, and there's a bit of paper that has to accompany the goods, just showing the Belgian authorities that this is free from any checks or controls. But everything else can be electronic and is predominantly electronic.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Seamus, Stephen, for your presentation. And it's great to see that the logistics sector is being recognised at long last by this council. So it is, but I suppose at the outset, I'd like to declare a bit of conflict of interest as well. I have family members involved with the logistics sector, and having spoke to them over this last week or so as well, I've got to know some of the real problems that exist there within the logistics sector. And I suppose one is about, you know, the skilled staff to work in transport management and that. Is there an issue with that, Stephen, within the sector, you know, getting skilled staff for the backup with the haulage?
Yeah, so okay, like, you know, people typically see a lorry on the road and they not maybe appreciate the value and the work that actually goes into that lorry. You know, you place a lorry and a trailer on the road, you're probably looking at assets between the truck and trailer of maybe £250,000 worth of goods, but it's the technicalities that go into that. Seamus said about using Dublin and Holyhead. Haulage businesses have legal requirements. A driver can only drive for so many hours. So if he's driving south of Birmingham, you know, there needs to be professional competence, you know, from the driver, but also from the office staff within that there. We did kind of touch on it there that there's no longer a professional qualification. There used to be a course in Jordanstown there that's no longer in place. So training skilled people up to be a transport planner, you know, it's lacking. So there is certain skill gaps within the industry.
Right. Is any work been done? Are you working with colleges or anything like that, or has council engaged with you before? Or what can council do to help you in this?
I don't think the ABC Council have looked at. There has been some apprenticeship schemes launched within other boroughs, but I think for within the ABC Council, you know, we're probably some of the best SRC colleges, you know, in the north, you know, and engaging and looking at the haulage sectors to provide that, because a lot of the businesses, you know, they're family-run businesses, you know, so there's an interest there. We just need a bit of help and assistance with getting people trained up in the industry.
So that is something practical that council can do right away with engaging with Southern Regional College in the haulage sector and, you know, to facilitate this. Have you ever been invited to any of the jobs fair events that council has?
Deputy Lord Mayor, if you could just come through the chair, because it just makes it a wee bit easier. But no.
All right, sure.
Carry on.
No, it's just, Chair, you know, have the logistics sector been involved with any jobs fairs that council have run in the past?
No, not in the borough. I have done with Belfast City Council and with Antrim and Newton Abbey, but not with any other regional councils. You asked about qualifications. Northern Regional College is starting a course in September, initially for 20 students who will be sponsored by a haulage or logistics business. So that'll be a management level course. And obviously, you know, if that's successful, it'd be great to see it rolled out across the other regional colleges as well.
Well, I suppose, Chair, that's something practical that council could take up on. But another question there too, Chair, is what financial support has the logistics sector got and where do you get it from? Because I have been approached by 2 logistic firms over the last 2-3 weeks and they can get no financial packages or support. And these are companies that are wanting to expand within our council area. We run the risk of losing them out of our council area, and there's a possible job creation of up to 100 jobs. Now, so can Stephen or Seamus answer me, is there financial packages there for you in the haulage sector, or is that something you are finding problems with as well?
Seamus or Stephen, can I bring you in? And then I've got two more speakers, Councillor Nicholson, directly after that.
Okay, Mr. Chair. In the past, Kyle, the transport and logistics sector have been excluded from any Invest NI funding. It's been driven from an EU directive where they don't support transport and logistics. So if you're falling within that sector, there is no financial support for you.
Chair, just have a good one. Stephen.
Okay,
Quick one,
last one in, and then I really need to bring in the councillors.
Yeah, well, Stephen, you saying that Invest NI do not support the logistics sector, and we have a minister in this area who's head of the economy, and there's 100 jobs that's going to be lost out of this area unless we get. That's unbelievable, unbelievable. Thank you, Chair. Sorry for taking so much time.
Councillor Nicholson.
Crazy.
Right. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Stephen and Seamus, for your presentation. And to be honest with you, I wish you'd have been here last month, because we brought a notice of motion to the last council meeting to abandon the protocol, and there was members in the chamber didn't seem to think there's any issues with the protocol. But clearly tonight, I think you guys have outlined the experience of logistics. And I think you've adequately put it out there that obviously at the minute there's derogations in place, and when those derogations are removed, obviously we'll be the tip of the iceberg, and could be 10 times worse. In fact, I have friends in the logistics business as well, and I declare an interest, Chair, and they are telling me this is an absolute logistical nightmare trying to operate within this protocol. So I make no apologies tonight, Stephen and Seamus, to say as a party, we're fighting this protocol both from a political and a legal point of view at the minute to try and get rid of it. And we've also come up with obviously solutions to it, a paper which I'd encourage your logistic company to read and feed back into us. But in relation to the grace period, Stephen and Seamus, as you've quite correctly outlined, this needs to be extended and has been extended to a point. I think you said it was October, and others in July and August. How ready do you believe the logistic businesses to be? Because as I understand it, and as I say, we had a recent Zoom meeting with a lot of businesses in Northern Ireland, and they're having an absolute nightmare, and particularly the fish industry. The red tape is causing them massive issues about moving product east-west, and when you outlined it yourself there, the figures, the movement of product north-south is a lot smaller than east-west, and it does seem to be, this is a hammer to break a nut. But how can we as a council, help your industry to get you sort of at a point where you will be ready when these derogations will end? And the guys need to be ready, because we've experienced the cliff face of January, and we don't want to be in the same place in October. So as a council, what can we do? As I say, part of the notice of motion was we're writing to the Secretary of State and the Prime Minister, outline the issues that our businesses are having in ABC, and you've outlined yourself, there's a massive agri-food industry here, and we have to get that product out beyond Northern Ireland, and the more red tape and difficulty that's put in our way is going to make that, a complete nightmare for our logistical companies. So what can we do to help you to try and improve the situation under this current unbalanced treaty that we have? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Sam. I suppose I'll come in first. Stephen, you might have some good ideas maybe around about the customs element. Probably what I would say, some councils, especially for SMEs, SMEs certainly would use parcels a lot more to get like bits and pieces, components, whatever. Now, they've obviously got a reprieve from any customs as long as the value is low in those parcels. But even just for pallets or things, I think what some councils are doing is that they're offering a voucher scheme for those SMEs to get kind of bespoke advice and assistance, because the Trader Support Service, that's a government-funded scheme, but they are not equipped to give bespoke one-to-one advice to a business. If you call them up for advice, it's like calling NHS Direct. You get scripted questions, scripted answers by someone almost in a call centre. And people like Stephen and brokers, they don't have the time. Maybe Stephen, you correct me, but I don't think they have the time to operate a helpline for businesses either, because they're busy enough. We're looking after their clients. So suppose, I did see an example of Belfast City Councillor running a scheme for SMEs, companies with up to 50 employees, for one-to-one assistance with preparing for administration, etc. Because certainly, anytime I go on to LinkedIn now, all I see is businesses in Northern Ireland looking for administration clerks, people to help them with paperwork. So anything like that, I think that's maybe a quick solution, maybe.
Yeah, Seamus, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Like, the Trader Support Service, it's a free service and you kind of pay for what you get in it. We have had examples ourselves where you phoned in to ask a question and it's a generic answer, and it's not even the right answer at times, because if you go back to your customs manual, it goes against the protocol and everything else that's needed on. So businesses within the borough need bespoke training and bespoke advice, because every business has got unique circumstances within that there. The whole customs procedures and the timeframes to complete those have got a lot narrower. We've seen the first couple of weeks, jobs that should be taking 15 minutes were taking maybe 3 or 4 hours because people didn't have their information in place. Now what they did, they got that in place to get their goods into Northern Ireland, and they're now facing a supplementary declaration that unless you have got customs training and skill, you're not going to be fit till decipher that there. So you're not. So businesses are now, they're coming back to the likes of ourselves and other businesses say, can you come back and help us? And then once you actually spend the time, you realize that they don't actually have an understanding of what is required within that there. But businesses are getting goods moved into LNI, and they are moving a lot more freely. Now they have to complete the customs process and do that supplementary declaration. But what we have seen is we have seen a huge uptick on NI businesses come back out to the EU, either using the GB land bridge and moving on their transit, which has got a lot easier, and the cost has come down, because at the start nobody had the knowledge and there was a lack of capacity within the customs broker industry to provide that service. So people that could do it were charging an absolute premium for it, and now that people have got skilled up in it and know how to do it, the cost has come down. So we've seen one business within the borough area that they're actually recruiting now for an extra 15 fabricators because they won a contract in France, because their GB counterparts can't actually supply that. They can't actually get around the customs formalities. But us within NI, we don't, when we're exporting, we don't have customs formalities unless the haulage company is using the GB land bridge. Now the cost in that there, as opposed to using a direct boat, it still is more cost effective. So we have got a unique competitive advantage being an NI. And my request for the council would be to actually fully understand and look at the opportunities that the protocol does present to us at the minute. It's not ideal and it does need tweaked, but there is certain advantages that businesses in NI can benefit from.
Councillor Nicholson, is that okay, or did you want? You're on mute at the moment.
Sorry, Chair. Thank you for your answers. The only other thing I would add, Chair, is in relation to the industry. Is there any figures of how many more sort of staff has been required within the logistic industry to deal with all this additional paperwork, and how are those costs going to be sort of passed on? Like, does it get to the point where the logistic industry loses its competitiveness, or are you concerned in that way?
I think the logistics sector, it's very robust. We've been crying out for clarity of what was actually needed, and there's that many false starts in 2020 where it was going to happen, wasn't going to happen. People thought the 31st of December was going to be another one of those, but they have now reacted. They are out constantly looking for customs and office admin staff, but it's getting those guys trained. But as we said at the start, a haulage business operates between 2 and 5% net profit margins, so the margins are fine.
Yeah.
So ultimately, those costs are going to have to be passed throughout the supply chain.
Yeah. And are you concerned that will, sorry, Chair, that
Yes.
will be a knock-on effect and your competitiveness will be affected?
I think within the haulage sector, not necessarily. You know, we're talking minimal. You know, the trader support servicer, it is a free software, it is a free piece of kit that we can use. But then you're actually using office admin staff to actually go and gather the data up. So as a whole, the cost per load or the cost on a load of potatoes, I don't think we're talking you're going to see maybe a 10p increase on a bag of potatoes on the supermarket shelves. But there will be a knock-on effect to the end user.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Keating.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, gentlemen, for your respective presentations and some of the interesting issues that you have raised. I'm not sure if I'm hearing the same sentence as Councillor Nicholson. It seems to be the message there is that the protocol is providing a unique competitive advantage. I certainly don't see that as being a reason to scrap it and to pull it out lock stock. I do appreciate from what you're saying that there have been teething problems, I suppose, maybe to be expected with the upheaval that Brexit has foisted upon us, and I suppose maybe as the recalibration of trade and commerce and logistics and supply chains all heads south and into continental Europe from here, I think there are opportunities for us to exploit in this region, and I think that the haulage sector is very prominent in our borough. There are so many jobs and so much potential that we could continue to grow. And we have had a very active and proactive strategy, I suppose, with the agri-food sector to try and harness those jobs and to try and create and maximise the opportunities. And I'm wondering, maybe as a proposal from this committee, that maybe Nicola and the team could work with the respective parties that we have here who've given a very good presentation. Whenever lockdown eases up and we can pull together people again, that we have some sort of sector-specific conference that we have done with the agri-food sector, and we had one with the pharmaceutical sector, I remember, as well. So maybe if we could get some of the key businesses and stakeholders that are involved in the transport sector, and that they can come in and use council facilities, and that we can work through maybe some workshops with some of the businesses and work out about how we can increase employment in the sector and how we can ensure that businesses are supported to try and maximise any opportunities that do come. And of course, obviously that businesses can share best practice and knowledge about trying to overcome some of these hurdles that we're hearing about as well. So, I'd be very keen to see maybe, over the summer or early into the autumn, once lockdown is hopefully, touch wood, eased a wee bit, that we have a major networking opportunity with all these key stakeholders. If that's maybe something that somebody might second me to, we could work towards that maybe for later in the year. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Keating. I think it's maybe an opportune moment to bring Nicola in, really showcasing on the virtual jobs fair. Nicola, can I bring you in?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Oh, am I on mute? No, I'm not on mute. Good evening, members. Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, listened very earnestly to the presentation and presented lots of really good practical advice for us. And certainly with member support, we can follow up on a lot of those. The SRC and the haulage sector maybe working together around reskilling. We can investigate the voucher scheme that was mentioned this evening. We can investigate and explore Northern Regional Colleges, courses, etc. So we can do all of that in the meantime. But I just wanted to draw attention to the virtual jobs fair that is happening. It has been moved now to the 6th of May, but we're showcasing the logistics and haulage sector because we're aware, as Seamus and Stephen have outlined, that there are lots of opportunities there, and lots of people have moved from various unemployment within various sectors into logistics and haulage and are really making a difference. So we're keen to showcase and have plans in place to showcase that. And certainly, if members wish, we can certainly do a major showcase event once lockdown allows us to. Very, very happy to work on that.
Thank you very much indeed, Nicola. Councillor O'Hanlon.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Seamus and Stephen, for your presentation. I suppose, look, let's be fair, we're all politicians in the room, so I'll take out of your presentation what I want to take out of it, and there are others who will take out of it what they want to hear from it. I do hear that the opportunities are there. I do hear that there are difficulties. There is no denying it, but look, let's call it what it is. It's a Brexit protocol. Brexit was always going to deliver borders, and this is what has happened. But I think there needs to be a unity of purpose right across the political spectrum and business to make sure that those borders, be they physical or be they trade barriers, are brought down and that business can continue to trade. And I know that Councillor Keaton's made a proposal, and I'm happy to second that. But what I would ask is that maybe over the next month, if Nicola and in partnership with Stephen and Seamus, I think there's a detailed paper that needs to be brought back to us, because I see that there's probably there's a lot of issues that maybe council can work with the sectors on, be it recruitment, be it training locally, but also in terms of working with ministers, who we have a number of ministers across our borough who we can lobby at Stormont. But I think the important bit is that council needs to continue to work with the sector, and if there are opportunities there, and listening to people in the trade, I'm hearing that there are definitely yes, there are definitely issues, but there are definitely major opportunities that can benefit the borough. And I think that if we could work in partnership with the two organisations represented this evening, I think there's bound to be potential there that council can work with and support the sector locally. And I don't think anyone has anything to fear in terms of doing that. And I would, if Councillor Keaton is happy to amend his proposal, that yes, we have the piece about a conference or something as soon as restrictions are eased, but there's a piece of work to be done between now and then, which identifies where there are opportunities that council can assist with, but also where there are difficulties that council can help and assist with as well. And if that was, if Councillor Keaton was happy with that amendment, I think then that there's potential there for council as one of the key economic drivers in the area to try and support business and to take whatever opportunities there are there for the borough, but also to try and solve whatever problems there are too.
Thank you. Councillor Berry, thank you for being patient for one moment. Could I just maybe check with Councillor Keating? Are you okay with that amendment?
Yes, sir. I don't. It's in keeping with what the scope of it was to encourage our officers to engage as closely with the sector as possible and to be proactive in trying to find any way to assist. So listen, that's in keeping entirely with it. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Berry, for being patient. I'll bring you in now.
Thank you very much, Chair, for being patient. I would like to thank Seamus and Stephen, obviously, for their presentation tonight. I think it's something that doesn't shock us, obviously, especially from the implementation of the protocol. And I think, within the presentation, it's abundantly clear when you look at sort of that 42.5% of previous volumes, not to expect to go back to those volumes again. And I think that speaks volumes. Whilst there might be some merits in the protocol and some benefits, I think the negatives far outweigh those benefits. And I think clearly action has to be taken by the PM and the Secretary of State and others in relation to the very severe implications of the protocol and the disaster that has brought upon our economy. When one looks at the Northern Ireland imports of 10.5 billion, I think it clearly it doesn't take you to be the smartest cookie to understand the severe implications that we are having. And I listened not to politicians, but I listened to business people within the area that I represent. And just over this past week or more, I've had one large retail business owner contact me that in his usual year at this time of the year, he contacts those businesses in England looking the barbecue products, and they're now telling him that because of the problems and the bureaucracy of the current status of what's happening now with the protocol, that sorry, thank you very much for your previous business, but we're no longer supplying to Northern Ireland. I speak to another wholesaler who contacted me, and these aren't, as I say, politicians. They're business people. They're looking to make money quite rightly. And you know, one person contacted me that she had a cleaning business and a wholesaler, and this is just to give you an example. You know, she always gets brush shafts delivered from the mainland, and now she had to fill in forms looking to know the length of them and the weight of every individual brush shaft. Then I had a lorry sales guy who buys and sells lorries across the mainland into the Northern Ireland, and now basically he's saying because of the protocol that he cannot sell Northern Ireland purchased trucks on the mainland because of the bureaucracy and they're being seen as foreign vehicles. And if he's to do that, he's to bring them via Dublin, up through Dublin into Northern Ireland and back again, which is totally ridiculous and clearly impacting on his business. So he has calculated that one trip alone for that particular lorry, even to get the PSV on it, is about £1,000 extra, just £1,000 extra, if not more, for him to do that. And when he contacted PSV Northern Ireland, they were fit to tell him on that particular day there was another 6 lorry salesmen who were in the same predicament, and that's something that was feeding through. Now, I know your good organisation is sending your message to the government, but there clearly is massive issues there. And when one looks at the previous volumes and your members are saying that you don't expect to meet the previous volumes in the future, that cries to me as job losses, and it is something that must be addressed. And I think that's what's important. So I think it's important that we as a council as well send that clear message to the Secretary of State, because personally, in my humble opinion, Boris and the Secretary of State seems to be in denial of the real problems that are out there. And it's us who are meeting the people and the business people on the ground who are telling us they might be small stories in our eyes or in the Prime Minister's eyes, but they're having a severe impact on businesses here if they can't get their barbecue products anymore, because their sales are going down, staff could be impacted, and it has a range of problems right for you guys in the logistics side of things, because with the volumes down, then there's going to be jobs down, and these are things that need to be addressed, removing the politics from it and getting to the basics of it, that unless there's massive improvements, then we're not going to go ahead. So I think, you know, it would be important for us as a council to express our views, and I would propose that we would write to the Secretary of State based on tonight's meeting, and I hope someone will second that, to express our views following this presentation and following the clear statistics in this, to make them aware. I have no doubt you guys have made them aware, but I think it's important that we come in and back you up on that. But thank you for your presentation, and I think it is important that we continue to engage with you, because whilst we engage with local businesses, it's good to hear from your good selves of the bigger picture of what's going on and seeing how we can help to work with you. So thank
you. If we could just take Councillor Keating's proposal for the event at the appropriate time in the summer, and then the Councillor O'Hanlon's amendments, you know, working between now and then. Is everybody happy enough with that? Are we agreed? Okay,
Agreed, yeah.
You shaking hand, that's great, or nodding heads. Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm happy to second Councillor Barry's proposal there.
Councillor Barry, could you just summarise again your proposal there, just so that we can...
Thank you, Chair. My proposal is very clear, you know, that I propose that we would write to the Secretary of State. You know, the UK government, in relation to this presentation that we have received tonight, and highlighting sort of the impacts that would have in the ABC area, and specifically looking at those statistics in relation to the members that were were lobbied in relation to the 42.5% less volumes, and that basic ground of things.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Baxter.
Sure, I was just in the second Councillor Barry's proposal, but Councillor Nichols beat me to it.
Okay, Councillor Keating.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And just, I suppose, speaking to the proposal there, one of the bedrocks and basic principles of any economic system for a region is that you want to be exporting more than you're importing. If you're exporting more than you're importing, it means you're producing and you have got profitability and you're making stuff and you're sending out more stuff to the world than you're taking in. Now, it baffles me that with people on complaining that we're restricting or we're reducing the amount of stuff we're taking in, if we're having issues in this part of the world in bringing in brush shafts, that should be a stimulus to the local market that somebody starts manufacturing brush shafts. For every problem, we should be looking for an opportunity. We have got pure unregulated access for goods into the whole of Europe. We've already heard that some of the businesses in England and Scotland and Wales, particularly the fishing industry in Scotland, can't get their produce into continental Europe. We have got a unique position here where we have got unrestricted access into a market of 450 million people and unrestricted access into the market in Great Britain. So we need to be exploiting that. We shouldn't be decrying the fact that it's difficult for people to get stuff in here. We should be concentrating and knuckling down and hunkering down and trying to find out how we can stimulate the local economy to take advantage of this situation and start, instead of looking out to see why we can't get stuff brought into here, saying, right, this is an opportunity for us to start making it, up our own manufacturing game, ramp up production, not just to cover our domestic needs, but also that we can start manufacturing and taking advantage of the situation that people in Great Britain can't fulfill the market obligations of Europe. So I don't agree with the proposal at the moment on the floor, because I don't think that us slowing down what we're bringing in is an issue. I think it's not looking at the opportunity that we should be using this as a stimulus to try and invigorate our local commerce and our local manufacturing base, which up until now has been flagging because we're not competitive as some of the manufacturing bases across the water. So now is the opportunity. This is a stimulus. This is what we should be concentrating on, is instead of worrying about how we're not getting goods in, how we can make sure that we make the logistics guys' business up by exporting. That's what it's all about.
Okay, thank you, Seamus and Stephen. Thanks for being with us here. Where there's a proposal there. Just one sec. Yeah, sorry, we need to go to a vote on that. So if you bear with me, I'll just get the list. To try and bring an agreement to this, I mean, obviously this is a very important, issue and logistics sector, at this time with the protocol. I mean, to try and get some consensus on this, I mean, Councillor Barry, would you take an amendment or not, to bring stakeholders together to try and find a resolution on that?
Sorry, Chair. No, I wouldn't, because when you speak to the local businesses, it's all hurry and ferry from Councillor Keating, who's not paying business rates and paying rent on properties, that is expecting products to come in as we currently speak. They're not going to, that's something that maybe could be done in the long term, but we're talking about the short term. This man's now in March, for example, and barbecue products, for example, he's just not going to snap his fingers and get that. The competitive market at the minute is the mainland for his business, which has now been cut off. And I think it's a simple thing. It's very simple to go to the Secretary of State and express our concerns based upon what we have heard tonight. And I'm not backing down on it. It's most regrettable that something like this would be forced to vote because Sinn Féin's not happy. You know, so I'm not getting into the politics of it. It's the business people that are expressing their views to us. And I don't care what their religion is. If their business is impacted by this, well, then I think it's imperative that we make those representations in a very simple manner, but firm manner.
Okay, I just bring Seamus in at this point. Seamus.
Sorry, Chair. I should just come in and just say to the councillors, like, through myself and other business organisations, I work closely with Ulster Farmers Union, Northern Ireland Food and Drink, etc., retail, manufacturing, and we would specifically, you know, we just focus on the legalities that we have to work with. We would just bear in mind, we're conscious when we speak to government that any alternatives out there, we're conscious that we don't want to leap from the frying pan into the fire as such. So we need, if we do remove the protocol, we need a clear plan of action where we go to next, because the worst thing that we could do, we have to look at the UK's command paper for a no-deal Brexit that we faced 2 years ago, and that meant border controls and goods leaving Northern Ireland going to GB. So we just need to be careful that we don't harm our export business by thinking we're protecting the import business. So just from a business organisation point of view, and every business organisation that have said this, we need a clear, if we're leaving plan A, have a plan B for us.
Okay, thank you. We'll take it to a vote now. Sorry, Councillor Barry, did you want to in very brief? We're going to go to your vote now.
Yes. Very, very briefly, and tweaking it to a certain extent through the chair to hopefully find a bit of common ground here, because I don't think it's much to ask for, in my humble opinion. But you know, if we were to send a letter to, obviously, the UK government and indeed to the EU, basically requesting that both of them continue to engage as a priority and to find resolutions to this based upon what we have heard tonight, I think it's very, very important that these issues are brought to the fore. And what Seamus and others is saying is trying to ensure that we can find that resolution going forward. But I don't think that's too much to ask under the circumstances, given what we are hearing on a daily basis, but also this presentation tonight.
Okay, Councillor O'Hanlon, I'll bring you in just before we go to a vote.
Yeah, look, I thank Councillor Barry for the clarity there. Look, I think listening to the gentlemen who's made their presentations tonight, they have very clearly articulated where there are concerns. They've also articulated where there are opportunities as well. But I think that writing to both the UK and the EU administrations, urging people to get their heads together and get this resolved, I think that's a solution that everybody can buy into and would be happy to support.
Councillor Keating, could I bring you in?
Sure. I don't have any issue. We agreed as a council corporate last week that we were already writing to the British government about this, so maybe we could amend a paragraph in that letter that's going, save us a stamp for a second letter. But in any event, I have no issue with the council on behalf of the sector, on behalf of any business, raising issues with the protocol. The point that I was making is that to demand wholesale that is taken down with no idea of what would be replacing it, as has quite rightly been mentioned by Seamus, you could be jumping from the fire into the frying pan or vice versa. So I have no issue with raising any concerns or any business or logistical difficulties that it is raising with anybody that it needs raised with. So I don't see that it necessarily needs to be a vote, but the issue is that I would like to see what is actually said in the correspondence going forward. If it's a case of raising some of the issues on behalf of businesses, that's fine. If it's a case of saying that it has to be abandoned and pulled down full stop, then I wouldn't agree with that, but for the reason said, we don't know what would be replacing it with.
I think Councillor Keating would just be the words that Councillor Barry had outlined. Could I bring in Councillor Nicholson? Are you happy enough with Councillor Barry's amendment?
Yes, Chair. I'm totally happy with Councillor Barry's amendment, because I don't know where this conversation's gone, but it isn't a green and orange issue. It really is. This is about business, and this is what we've been told. So I am happy with that amendment.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I think we're getting closer there. Are we in agreement with that proposal now, or do we need to go to the vote? Are we in agreement or any objections?
Great.
We're all agreed. That's great. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Seamus and Stephen, thank you very much indeed. We've got no more hands up for questions. And thank you very much for coming in this evening. It's been a very informative and a very serious debate and discussion, and very much appreciated. And hopefully you'll take away that the council is supportive, and we were highlighting the jobs fair coming up, and then also the event that we're looking at now to involve the logistics sector. So thank you very much indeed.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of the committee.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so moving on now to agenda item number 4, the Strategic Director's Report. And there's one information item, and that is planning and the economy. Olga's here, and Damien is also here this evening if there are questions. So it's for information. So if there's any questions. Are everybody happy to note? Alderman Mitry.
Thank you, Chair. More a comment than a question. I've read the report and it's all very good and very positive. But at the end of the day, we need a council that can turn around planning decisions quickly, most especially for business. And I would encourage folk to look across the 11 councils and to see where we sit in relation to other councils. I'm not by any means saying we're at the worst, but we need to be, whenever we move on, hopefully soon from the end of this pandemic, back to some degree of normality, we need to be in a position that we can take decisions speedily and efficiently for businesses in the area if we're to be attractive, because there are other council areas which may have the capability of taking them quicker. And that could be the difference between having businesses in our borough or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Just on a similar vein as Alderman Mitry has said, you know, we are sitting at the minute, there's businesses out there that need land and can't get it, because Investa and I have locked all the land up and it's only for certain sectors, and we need to free that up. Some way or other, we need to get that freed up, but we need to speed up the process. We need to be more efficiency. You know, we need to be like a business. Businesses are efficient. Our planning service has to be efficient. This council has to be efficient in what it's doing. And if we run the risk, as I said earlier on, alluded to, there's 2 companies approached me, and we could possibly lose them out of our council area because there's no commercial land that suits them at the present time moment. So we do need to speed processes up. Like you're talking here, you're going about a couple of years down the line here before this is all kicked. You know, we can't kick the can down the road. We need to get off and get moving on this here and support businesses as much as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Damien, could I bring you in there on the points made by both Alderman Mitry and the Deputy Lord Mayor? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and I'm happy to take those. Look, the first point I would make here, Chair, I suppose, is that officers, planning officers are under no illusions here about the importance of delivering growth and investment to the borough. And you'll see from the report that we have geared ourselves up to work very hard in order to deliver applications in a prompt and timely manner. Our track record since transfer of planning to councils has been a very good one. While we maybe didn't meet all our targets last year in relation to major applications, we were significantly better than the average across Northern Ireland. Members will be aware we set up a major applications team about 3 or 4 years ago, specifically to focus on the applications that could deliver growth and investment, and that has paid dividends. From the report, you'll see we processed 14 major applications this year, £320 million worth of investment into the borough, 700 job opportunities created. There are huge planning fees associated with that. So officers are very aware of the importance of delivering and growth, and the importance of delivering applications quickly. Look, one other point I would mention, some of the members would have been at the workshop last week, which was around the service review of planning. That's aimed at improving our efficiency, improving our performance beyond what it is already. And we're working to review our processes, our protocols, and our working practices, and members have been invited to feed into that, and we're very keen to engage with members around all of that, and further workshops will take place as the year moves on. But that's our objective. We are well aware of the need to deliver on medium and long-term growth to the borough, and that's what we're geared up to do, Chair, and I just want to make members aware of that and assure them that is indeed our objective.
Thank you very much indeed, Damien. Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I suppose, first of all, I have to declare an interest as a member of the Planning Committee, but if you can note that, Chair, that'd be great. But look, I suppose as a member of the Planning Committee, I want to come in behind Damien, and I want to just thank Damien and all the planning staff, because I know you do get a hard time, but I have witnessed it firsthand in different meetings where applicants have thanked our Planning Committee, our planning officers, about the speed they dealt with their application. And I think it would be well if members would encourage anybody that's put an application in to engage early with the planning authority, because there is a system there where you can have an early engagement to iron out all the issues in any planning application going forward, be it major. And as Damien has already said, like our track record as a planning committee with majors is very good in comparison to all the other councils. And obviously the workshops recently, a lot of members were at, but there's a lot of members that weren't at them. And obviously they're trying to find other ways of improving efficiency all the time. But look, Chair, I just wanted to say that one thing I would actually say also was in relation to, and Damien knows I'm very much behind this, you know, in relation to going forward. I've made my voice known at workshops. We maybe need to pump prime sites, you know, have them ready. If they're enterprise sites or something like that, there, have them pump primed, that when somebody comes in, all those things are dealt with. And that's a decision for us as a council to make. And it's something maybe for discussion another time, but it's something, if you're sitting with a site with all the niggly bits all dealt with, it would be more, as I say, attractive to developer. But look, I just want to sort of put on record my thanks to Damien and all the staff, because I know how hard they work in these situations, trying to work with developers. So thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Damien, did you want to come in on that point?
Thanks for letting me in again, Chair. And look, I want to thank Councillor Nicholson for his comments and you know, much appreciated. Look, you know, there are many examples get given where we have processed applications very timely. Like the Game of Thrones application last year was one example where, again, if we had engaged in pre-application discussions with applicants on that one, we could have probably brought it in even more timely than we did. But as Councillor Nicholson points out, there are two big things about planning applications. One is the quality of the application, and the other is about you know, the time for consultations to respond. Now, we're working cross-government at the minute with other councils and with DFI to try and address this issue about consultees, particularly statutory consultees like government departments. Issues such as SLAs and even the resourcing of some of these departments to make sure that they can respond more quickly. But we, as you will have picked up from the service review workshop last week, we want to work more closely with the agents to try and improve the quality of the applications. And that's where we're going with this. Through the service improvement plan, the planning department is currently in the process of implementing. We hope to bring forward a series of measures that will improve efficiency and performance by working with other departments, by working with agents and applicants. and that's what we hope to achieve, Chair.
Thank you. That's really good to hear, Damien. And thank you very much to you and all your team for your work. Just on that, just when you're saying about pre-application discussions, I know in Scotland, you know, especially for the slightly larger applications, a meeting is convened with DFIE Roads, DERA, Environment, and NI Water, etc. Is part of your plans and thinking going forward? I know it would be a virtual type meeting at the moment, but some sort of a meeting like that at the beginning, and to try and offset some of those delays from the various departments?
Yeah, we're already doing that, Chair. In relation to the bigger applications, we would invite in the key consultees like Roads and some of the others you mentioned. The thing is, at the moment, you know, we're relying on their goodwill to engage, because they're not getting anything out of it other than they hope, I suppose, it'll make the process slightly easier for themselves when the application comes in. But we are certainly, we've been doing that now for a number of years. We promote that very highly. We encourage it with all the applicants and investors that we do come into contact with. And not all are keen to take it up, because some of them prefer to get the application into the system and then let the planners sort it out. And we've referred to this before, but some of them treat the planning system like an MOT centre. We're trying to move away from that and sort out the issues before submission. So that's the way we're going. But what I would also add to that is that a part of our service improvement plan, we will be bringing before members later in the year a proposal to formalise this pre-application discussions process, where we introduce a new system, a new service, which we hope to make more attractive to applicants and investors. But we want to engage with members around it, first of all, to get your thoughts on it before we would roll it out. Even if it's on a trial basis, we'd like to roll it out and see how it goes down. So we'll bring that before members probably around May or June of this year.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll look forward to seeing that. Alderman Spears.
Mr. Chairman, just through you, I want to follow on some of the points that have been made. Councillor Nicholson was on about, and yes, we had a very good meeting. I think it was last week in the context of modernisation within the planning service. So, Damien, I think that was, personally speaking, I think it was helpful in trying to address some of these issues, and I look forward to sort of the outcomes of that. The thing about sites and whatever, indeed, Councillor Nicholson talked about service sites. To some extent, in my opinion, over years of sort of dealing with some of these things, the lack of identifying industrial sites, more so with the smaller settlements, there has been a sort of a view peddled by government that it was either Craigavon or, you know what I mean, you go to the Seago or you go to some of the parks and acquire a site, and usually quite costly. Even in Armagh, there were one on the Newry Road at Adnaveas. And it is, to some extent, it has driven people into maybe out in the countryside, and some of these businesses have developed in the countryside. There's nothing wrong with business in the countryside, but there's some of them actually are, in my opinion, too big. They outgrow the road they are on. And having spoken to people that have had to do that, it was primarily because there was no service site adjacent to them or in their own settlement. And we have allowed, planning has allowed, or it has happened by events. You've seen settlements that have expanded greatly in terms of residents and maybe lacking in some other facilities. But in this particular area, I think there is need to look at some way whereby zoning and indeed facilitating the opening up and the creation of enterprise parks or whatever, to give people the opportunity to do what they feel best to do
in industrial development or economic development closer to where they want to be rather than forced into maybe Craigavon or Armagh or Banbridge for that matter. Now, I just feel it's a point that has got to be considered in the context of the discussion that we've been having. Thank you. And I'm interested in your view, Damien.
Damien, if I could bring you in, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. No, it's a very good point, Alderman Spears, and I think, you know, it's something we'd be very keen to look at with members as we move forward. You know, look, we will be bringing forward later this year policies around, you know, for example, how we accommodate economic development within the countryside, how we foster growth in the countryside and support rural economies. Those sorts of policies will be coming before members later in the year for discussion with you, to get your input, and then we start to frame the policies and then publish the draft plan strategy that we're currently working on. We haven't got as far yet as looking at zoning of land and so on. That will come later. That. But certainly with regard to policies that will support the rural economy, absolutely agree with you. I think we need to look carefully at those. There are policies there at the moment which we're implementing policies at the moment that were developed by the former DOE. And we will be looking to bring forward our own, which are developed by the council, tailored to meet the council's needs and specifically designed for our own borough and our borough's needs. So we'll look forward to engaging with you in the months ahead on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor O'Hanlon.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I suppose, like others, I want to add my thanks to Damien and the team. You know, I've always found that whenever you have someone who comes in, be it a business or a housing developer or whatever, and you go to the planning team and say, look, there's an economic benefit here, as long as you have been able to demonstrate that there is that economic benefit, that the application is fast-tracked and it is dealt with as swiftly as possible. So, you know, I want to acknowledge that. And where I would always have found the issues is the consultees. You know, if an applicant has front-loaded an application and has done all their work going in, then the issue is around the consultees. And I suppose Damien's comment about them dealt with like an MOT, because Damien used that. That's, to me, that is actually probably as good a way as summarising it as possible, in that she will take a chance, we'll fire it in. It's like the car, you bring her to the MOT centre, you get the failure and you're told what's actually wrong with it. And it's the same with some people treat planning applications in the same way. But look, I know there's been discussion previously around like a single stop service for business. Whenever there's an investor coming to the area, that they contact economic development, that there's a single team or a single service where planning is brought on board to assist if that's an issue. If there is, you know, whatever support mechanisms is available in council or through council with other agencies. Have we made any progress in relation to that? Or maybe, Damien, that's what you're referring to in your earlier comments.
Yeah, happy to come in, Chair, if that's okay.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yeah, Councillor Hanlon, thanks for your kind words. They're much appreciated. And yeah, look, we I suppose in one sense, we are already doing that through you know, the pre-application discussions and working collaboratively with you know, some of the other key consultees, some of which would be, you know, consultees within our own council, for example, environmental health. But we are also, you know, looking to work, and we are already actually with economic development, you know, working very closely with them to ensure that developers who approach the economic development department because they have expansion plans, that they're quickly put our way. We've worked very closely with Catherine, for example, as well as Nicola, and gone out to meet some of the developers such as Manfred and others, and spoken to them to get an idea of what their plans are, to see how we can help them and help them early in the process before they put an application together. And that has worked very well, but there's always room for improvement, and you know, we will continue to work closely with Nicola's department to see how we build on what we've already achieved. and see how we can, enhance things that way. But certainly up until now, that relationship has been very positive and has worked very well for some of our major employers.
I think as always, through you, Chair, we often hear about what we're not doing, but whenever Damien's able to highlight some of the stuff that we are doing behind the scenes and the good relationships that has been built there and the good practice, I think maybe a wee lesson for Damien is, look, come back and tell us on a more often basis just how good and some of the work that you and the team are doing, because it is really, really appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hanlon. Yeah, much appreciated.
Thank you. There's no more questions or hands up at the moment. So Damien, I know this isn't your normal committee, so just very thanks for coming along tonight and answering questions, and we will move on at that point. Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity, Chair. Thank you, members.
Okay, moving to agenda item 5 now, which is the Economic Development Report. Nicola, there are 2 decision items and 2 information items. Nicola, could I hand over to yourself?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair, and good evening again, members. Item 5.1 is all about Economic Development Action Plan for Recovery and Growth 2021. And it's recommended that members approve the short-term action plan detailed in this report to support recovery and growth of the local economy, and that you note the number of ongoing actions already underway and agree to receive a review of the short-term plan as part of our business plan update.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, yes, Chair. Happy to propose the recommendation. Nicola, can you just give us a wee bit of idea what type of support funding is being sort of provided to council to deliver this short-term programme, and where are we in a long-term strategy? Because I think, yes, there's no doubt about it, recovery in the short term is important, but I think we need a long-term strategy of being able to sustain, this and develop, the economic potential within our borough. Thanks, Chair.
Nicola.
Okay, thank you for the question. Yes, and through you, Chair. The short-term plan is really what we're planning to do within the next 6 months to a year, and most of what we have is already in play. You'll see there that we have already a number of actions underway, including like the labour market partnership, virtual job fair, big apprenticeship event. So all of those things are going to be funded primarily through the existing economic development budget, because they are very much our core work and what we're doing. And you're absolutely right, short-term plan is one thing, but longer-term strategies and plans are really important. And that's what I'll be bringing next month and the month after. I wanted to start off with putting on the table the shorter-term plans, what we're looking at now, and then look at the longer-term things and bringing in other partners and other issues that we need to take on board as part of that. All of this has come from the KPMG Growth and Recovery Plan as well, so there's probably no surprises in there. It's just been presented in short term and then medium and longer term later on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicola. Thanks, Chair. And regarding funding, Nicola, is there money going to be available from central government to sort of help us sort of promote these strategies and things going forward?
Through you, Chair, at the moment there is no pot of money identified as such, but as we come across each project, we will carefully consider the funding and where that might be coming from, and it'll be on a project by project basis. But you're right, that's probably more for the medium and longer term projects, and we can have a bit more of a run in and preparation to that.
Thanks, Nicola. Thanks, Chair.
Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Nicola, happy to second that, Chair. So, but Nicola, just on that there, and what was highlighted earlier on in the logistics sector, the logistics are going to be involved within the jobs fair going forward here now. So I know they haven't been in the past, which is wrong. Sometimes the logistics sector, or like the agri-food sector, the farmers, we're all forgot about, so we are, but we're 2 vital links within the chain within our country, so we are. But that link between education and business is vitally important, and we really need to drive that home, because we need to be getting our businesses talking to the educationists, that we're actually training our young people for the jobs which are in potential jobs within the area. So that's vitally important, and that's one thing I'd like to see highlighted, Nicola, going forward there, because it's very important. We've seen what the benefits to the local economy is from agri-food and logistics, and as I say, two similar ones that have been forgotten about in the past, so we need to really push that. Thank you, Chair and Nicola.
Thank you. Alderman Spears.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, thanks, Nicola, for the report. I've read through it. There's just one point I want to make, and it's maybe not mentioned in the report, but I was speaking to a factory owner the other day, and him and I had a conversation, and I said about the number of employees and whatever, and he said to me, hey, yes, we could do 20 if we could get them, and he's in the steel fabrication business, and he outlined to me that he felt that there, in Northern Ireland terms, there was probably somewhere in the region of 2,000 sort of people needed for that field of activity. And I'm not certainly an expert in it, but he mentioned that some FE colleges were training and were more into this, and some councils had joined up. Now, he wasn't fully au fait with all the details, but he was pointing out, or at least his impression was, that we as a council were maybe not as proactive in terms of identifying sectors of potential shortages of manpower, and matching them with the personnel in training. And it was a point I sort of felt, right, is that correct? Is that happening here? And if it is, well, I feel that we should be in the business of trying to match up and to work with the FE colleges and try and identify some of the skill shortages. Now, I understand there has been work done in relation to that, but I would appreciate a view on that, on where we are with all that, because it's been talked about out there. Thank you, Chair.
Nicola.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Spears, and thank you, Chair, as well. You're quite right. That matching up the skills that is needed by industry with the colleges and with the universities and the training providers is something that we've all grappled with, because there isn't always a one-step solution for it. There isn't always the same need within the company by company don't always need the same thing, and it makes it quite difficult. However, we have been meeting with a group of employability and skills people to come together in a labour market partnership in our area. We met again on the 24th of February, and the group's made up of community planning partners and also the local works forum. But really what we've agreed is that we're going to put a bid into the Department for Economies for money towards certain groups, and we're talking about rural unemployment, support for people with a disability, health and well-being support, support for young people, economically inactive, long-term unemployed, and those recently made redundant. But we can also flex that approach to include key growth sectors and sectors that are facing high levels of unemployment and maybe where there are skills gaps and issues. So yes, there's lots of work underway, and it is very much a joint effort. It's not just something that council or one college can do on its own. It has to be joined up and it has to be done together, and we also need central government bought into it. So that's the plan that is in place for taking that forward.
Nicola, through you, Chairman, thank you, Nicola, for that update, and I appreciate the effort that is happening there, and I don't in any sense underestimate the challenge in relation to it. But I think it's a key area of economic activity that it needs some focus. And I mean, if it's any help, or if it's something that we can do as a council in terms of liaising or pressurizing or lobbying a department or whatever government department, trades and skills and on education, I think it's something that, Chair, I would like this committee to by and large send a signal there, a clear signal that something needs to happen. And I mean, what Nicola has said is good, but I think we need to support it and drive it in a way that has potentially have an ear that'll listen in other places, put it that way.
Thank you. Vice Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Nicola. I think first and foremost, this needs to come in. We need to be getting these sort of updates on a month-by-month basis, because let's face it, we're going to be in for a rocky period ahead as furlough comes to an end, but also as parts of the economy start to open up again. People will realise that they have been doing things with less and for less. So we might find that there'll be jobs right across our sectors that could be potentially under threat, but also in relation to the FE colleges. And through you, Chair, can I ask that maybe we bring in Southern Regional College at an early opportunity and give us a presentation? And the reason being, I would be concerned around some of the courses. Right, we have a lot of young people who have been out of face-to-face learning for a period. But we have, for example, courses in engineering, some of the engineering skills, some of the hospitality skills, some of health and beauty skills, where there's a large element of their program is in, that they require in-person practical support in college, and that they've missed out on that for a number of months. How's that going to impact on those young people? Is it going to delay the pipeline of young people coming out of the institutions? And how's that going to impact on then the labour market availability? And I understand we have all these different forums, but I think it's important that one council lead on this, but also that we bring key partners with us. Business is one, but also the education sector as well. And maybe at the earliest opportunity, I don't know if it's Brian Dorn or some of the team from Southern Regional College, if they could come along and see again where there's potential for partnerships for us to continue to work together. But Nicola, thanks for the work thus far, and I appreciate you said this is the short-term goals here. There's probably going to be a whole lot of short-term goals that's added on and hit very early targets in the next couple of months, and it'll probably mean a report each month if you don't mind. But look, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder to invite in SRC? Councillor Duffy, your hand up.
Yes, I'll second that. I agree with Councillor O'Hanlon there. And it is going to be a rolling programme, and all the businesses won't be opening together. There'll be one week, another week, and so on, hopefully over the next lack of months. And we need all our existing businesses to be prepared, and hygiene wise and everything that will be coming down the road for them. Their practices, they've already done it during the summer there last year for short term, but just to be ready again, that food businesses mightn't be allowed their full complement of people in at one time. So just to be prepared and have the businesses prepared for all this sort of stuff when it does come along. And especially in our high streets, an awful lot of businesses will be opening up again, and there will be an awful lot of people still working from home, so the footfall mightn't be there. So it's a thing to get them people back into the high street as well, back into the town centres, back in working in the offices, who eat in the cafes, who do their shopping in around the town while they're in there working. So that could be a knock-on effect which we need these businesses to be ready for as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you mind, sorry to interrupt.
Yes, Nicola, can I bring you?
Hand waving hand up. I just wanted to declare at this time that I'm a governor on the board of SRC. I just wanted to declare that interest at this time.
Thank you, Nicola. Councillor Barry? Councillor Barry, you had your hand up and now it's down.
That's me unmuted.
Oh, right, okay.
Sorry, Chair. Thank you very much. And obviously, you know, when we're on this very important subject in relation to the current economy, in relation to the recovery programme, the employability support, obviously that's very, very welcome, because it's very important that we continue to engage. So I would like to sort of know through Nicholas, sort of, you know, are we engaging with the community? Because obviously with this new launch, it's helping those who are unemployed as a result of COVID, and helping them, you know, to obviously build their confidence, to give them help with their CVs and preparing them for interviews. So I'd like to just sort of see what way, you know, we're connecting with the community in relation to that, and maybe promoting that as much as we can, because of the severe impact that we're having. And whilst it's welcome that obviously the furlough is extended, but that's not going to continue forever. And we're already hearing of various businesses that are continuing to pay people off because they know that it's coming down the road and that they might have to contribute more, which they do have to contribute more as time goes on. So what engagement is there? And how are we going to continue to sort of improve that as the days, weeks and months go ahead in relation to that? Because there's going to be that unemployment, regrettably, and it's starting to happen.
Nicola, if I could bring you in.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yes, we engage regularly with our community development team through Seamus, and I know that Seamus and I would meet regularly, and our teams both work together on various joint initiatives. We work with them and we refer people to the community helpline and vice versa as well. So we always work together whenever there's any opportunity. In relation to our virtual jobs fair, on the 6th of May, we've been working very, very closely with our community development team, and they've really been a big help and support to us in getting everybody together for that, and getting the word out to the community, and getting our word out to the community groups and through their newsletters, etc., to say that this virtual jobs fair is on, and using their expertise to try and get to the very hard to reach people, because we know that this pandemic is making people redundant, but it's even making those that are further from the labour market even further away. So we have a duty to reach out to everyone. So we've been working very closely with our community development team and through the community hotline and the business hotline as well. And we're cross-referring, and we're doing as much as we can at the moment, but we're always open to doing more and trying to push those boundaries even further.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Councillor Barry, were you looking back in there?
Very briefly, Chair. Would it be possible if we could get an update at next month's meeting, just in relation to sort of the contact and all of that between yourselves, community, and those people out there seeking help, just to see if that's increasing or decreasing in relation to as every month goes on?
Nicola, could you confirm if that could be?
Sorry, Chair. Yes, of course, that can be brought back to next month. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so there was a proposer and a seconder there to invite SRC to come in. I take it we're all agreed on that. Yeah, no one objecting. Okay, no, that's fine. Nicola, could we go on to 5.2 now on the digital? Please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yes, this 5.2 is the new digital support programme. So we're recommending that in order to respond to the continued high demand for digital support and to enable Council to support local SMEs to move online, aiding recovery and growth, that members approve £60,000 to deliver a new digital support programme, which will support up to 70 small and medium-sized businesses with bespoke mentoring and over 800 through virtual workshops. and that members note that this programme will build on the success of Council's current programme, which is coming to an end March 2021, and it will complement existing programmes delivered by partners and consolidate Council's interventions around digital support for recovery and growth, and that a mid-term review of progress against outputs is conducted following year one.
Thank you, Nicola. Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Nicola, for the report. Happy to propose that, and it's worthwhile, and it's good to see that the team, Nicola and our team, are engaging with all these businesses here, and it's great to see that it's the small to medium size, because that's the growth market, so it is. Those are the businesses that have the opportunity to grow, and that Council is supporting, putting the arm around the shoulder and supporting them on their journey. So happy to propose. It's good to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, yes, Chair. Like the Deputy Lord Mayor, I am happy to second this. There's no doubt about it. As we come out of this, even during this, we all know internet shopping is a huge thing at the minute, and obviously getting our businesses up to speed digitally is something that is a reality. I think going forward in business, in our SMEs. So I know a few SMEs have actually taken part in this scheme already, and I suppose on behalf of them, thank you, Nicola, and your team for this direction. They really do appreciate the work, and it's great for us to sort of continue this and add to this. So again, on behalf of them, thanks to you and your team, Nicola, and I'm happy to second, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. We've got a proposer and a seconder. There's no more hands or speakers at the moment. So are we agreed? Yeah, no dissensions. Okay, that's fine. Moving on now. There's two more items within the section 5.3 and 5.4 for information, employment and skills, and the business support. Okay, we're moving on now to agenda item number 6, which is the Regeneration report. There are two items for information items on Christmas just past, and also on the urban centres update. Councillor Keating.
Sorry, Chair, are we going to hear anything of these reports, or do you want me just to flag the wee comments I had for it?
I know you're coming in on sort of any other business at the end of this. If I just wait one moment, Councillor Keating, to see if there's any specific queries or questions with regards to the Christmas 2020 or the urban reports. If you could just bear with me one moment. Councillor Duffy.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I would just say the campaigns were very good. And just at a request I had made, I think Councillor Hannon had seconded, about some lights down Woodhouse Street, which was a main thoroughfare, for 4 or 5 car parks, main train station, the whole lot, a lot of people coming and going, to the town centre. And unfortunately, they couldn't get any lights down there at that time. So just hopefully they have something in place for next year when this comes round again, or for the end of this year, as you'd say. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Therese, could you come in on that?
Yes, Chair, just to say that Councillor Duffy is quite correct. There wasn't the ability at that stage when it was raised to source them, and I know our technical services team are looking at that request.
Thank you very much, Therese. Thank you. Vice Chair?
Yeah, Chair, I think that was just the issue was that the capability or the connection wasn't on the particular poles or that in the area, and it's just if we could have that a wee note back maybe next month confirming that is in place for next year. I think that would be very useful.
Okay, That would be great. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Keating, I know you're coming in on the bank closures now. Is that correct?
No, just
Oh.
just to mention, to remark on the Christmas stuff first there.
Oh, apologies. I would have brought you in earlier if I'd known. Okay.
No, it's fine, Chair. Thank you. No, just they are very promised fixtures, and it was really well designed imagery around it. I suppose one thing that I would like to see is, I suppose this is good to make it now, and we've plenty of run into next Christmas. I'd like to see more local imagery. We have some beautiful scenic pictures, particularly I think we even have a bit of a library of festive pictures that we've taken from Armagh, Lurgan, Portadown, River. Really lovely imagery, and even some of the evening markets. I would like to see that featuring a wee bit more in our own USP, featuring in some of the Christmas leaflets and I suppose across the board, and any publicity stuff that we're doing, that it relates to the ABC Borough rather than sort of some of the sort of slightly more generic pictures, just quick moves. But the figures are very promising, and it's good to get that level of detail, I suppose, moving forward in terms of what is capturing public likes and comments, etc.
Therese, did you want to come in on that?
I just pass that to the marketing team who do the campaign and make them aware of that request.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Just coming in on the back of what Councillor Keating was saying there about showcasing the local scenery and areas that we have, Lurgan Park, the staff in there, and all credit to them. They, in around the fountain, they installed lighting in around the 4 trees and around the fountain in Lurgan Park, but unfortunately it was vandalised and that. But even to showcase, which is the biggest park in Northern Ireland, and to highlight that, and there's the possibility of looking at a tree just across from the house there, where you could run an overhead cable to the tree and light up the tree, which would be there all year round as well. But it is something that's inviting to the park, inviting to the area, and showcasing Lurgan, for the positivity that it has. And I think that's something that we need to look at now. We'll have plenty of time, plenty of lead-in time, and hopefully this Christmas coming will be a lot better than what we've gone through in the past. But again, all credit to the team that have worked in this here. They have delivered a fantastic project in the past there. So let's grow it and make it better in the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Therese. Are you happy to note
Yes,
that?
Yes, happy to know.
Councillor Berry?
Very briefly, through the chair, I think it's just important that we would send on our thanks and appreciation to the team and the graphics team who Let's Light Up Our Borough for Christmas was brilliant marketing, and I think it would be interesting just to see what sort of the figures were last year compared to this year, because obviously completely different year. But just a brief thanks to all those staff who tried to make it brighter for us and everybody else. And I think the message was clear, which is good to see it coming through. Support your local city, towns and villages this Christmas. And I think the equality was across the board, thankfully.
Thank you. Vice Chair?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And like Councillor Barry, I add my thanks to the graphic design team for the work that they did do. It looked really, really good. However, the one thing, and the officers will know, I would have preferred if instead of saying Light Up the Borough, that it said Light Up Armagh, Light Up Craigavon, or Lurgan or Portadown. I think that it just missed that one wee connection that it didn't mention the different towns and villages as well. I think especially whenever it's more social media and localized campaigns, there's maybe that wee bit of opportunity to drive that more locally. But look, that's only a pet project of mine, but I think that in terms of the quality of the work and even the virtual Santa experience, I think was excellent. And it's the same Santa Claus who I take my wee ones to see in Macrum's Court, and he's excellent. Obviously he's the real Santa Claus, and it come across as absolutely excellent, and I know our Lord Mayor played a part in that as well. So thanks to everyone who was involved.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there's no more comment. Councillor Keating, were you looking to come in now?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. That's just under the report on 6.2. Just maybe a timely intervention under that particular report, that maybe council add its voice to the calls for the Bank of Ireland to rethink local branch closures. I know Portadown, Banbridge and Katy are all to be impacted by the closure of Bank of Ireland, or the proposed closure of the Bank of Ireland branches. Particularly in Katy, that's the only bank there, and a lot of individual and domestic customers, as well as a lot of the businesses, do rely on convenience of banking there. Particularly at the current situation, pandemic and whatnot. I think it's just it's a retrograde step, and I think the local trading bodies across the north of all and the south have all been quite vocal in trying to ask that the Bank of Ireland rethink some of this, or mitigate some of these closures. And certainly I think maybe if the council could add its voice to that, or particularly if officers could engage with the local Bank of Ireland branches to try and raise the issue, I'd be very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And just on the same vein, Councillor Keating's right. The closure of the Bank of Ireland in Katy in particular will see the last of the banks pull out in Katy. And for those of us who represent rural areas, that's all the banks retreating back into the main conurbations in Armagh City, in Portadown and Lurgan. And I appreciate even in this, Portadown hasn't escaped the scalpel with the loss of its Bank of Ireland branch, as well as the one in Banbridge. In relation to, everyone has moved on to online banking, but for a business who relies on the bank, for example, for the night safe drops, that is a major inconvenience that will happen there as well. And secondly, in Katy, there are a number of cash points in retail outlets. There is one other one on a private building. It's actually on a former bank building, but you pay to withdraw cash from it. This will mean the last free cash point removing out of the town as well, which is 24/7. So it is a major issue for the town. And I know in the past that council sought and had a meeting with, I think it was First Trust, in relation to whenever that institution had some of its closures announced. And I would propose that we have a cross-party delegation to meet with Bank of Ireland, that we asked to meet them, led by you, Chair, as Chair of Economic Development, that if we could have that meeting with the banks, with the bank, highlight the concerns. And to me, this is more than just pushing it beyond the pandemic. This is about actually trying to save the service in the rural communities. And I would propose that we write to the Bank of Ireland in that regard.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair, and I would gladly second that proposal. Councillor Nicholson.
Yes, Chair, and I'm glad this has been brought up, and I think this has been another body blow for the rural community, which has been dealt many a body blow, be it in Tandragee, be it at Market Hill, be it wherever. I talk to a lot of business people, and it's hard to believe, and you don't really think about the footfall that banks actually create in these places. When they go elsewhere. When people go to the bank, they go and do a bit of a shop. They call into, they'll do this, they'll do that, they'll do whatever. That's gone now and will never return. Unfortunately, it does seem to be a direction of travel of banking, which has been outlined by Councillor O'Hanlon. But and I would also sort of think we should engage with the FSB, because it is going to be the small businesses that are going to be the biggest affected here. And I know that at a massive lobby the last time, because we had a meeting with them when this initial cull of banks happened, and unfortunately it didn't make a difference. So look, I fully support this action. We need to do something, because, as I say, these do create vital footfall in our small towns and in our villages, and it is making it more and more difficult. in relation to build your economy in these places, and as maybe something as an economic development committee we need to look at as well, in relation to how we sort of can help these people adopt to try and get more footfall into our towns and villages, because as the banks go, it is a massive blow. They do argue that they can use the post office, but and I've heard that argument over and over again, but it does seem to be, as Councillor Hanlon has said, you know, the night safe drops, those sort of things, people having to keep cash in their business and stuff. It makes it very, very difficult for the rural community. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Alderman Spears.
No, Chairman, I just want to come into we've been here in other places. I mean, Market Hill and Tandragee, and indeed right across Northern Ireland, or indeed further afield as well. I mean, Market Hill is one of the best business towns in Northern Ireland, and yet all the bank moved out of it. Tandragee is again, this is having a major impact on anything that we do in terms of regenerating or generating the rural community. And I mean, the banks are just totally, I know the last time, and I was part of a delegation that met banks, and they weren't in the slightest bit concerned or interested. They just went ahead and done what they wanted to do. And totally, I agree with the comments that have been made. I mean, people go to town to the bank, and they spend some money when they're in the town, and if they don't go, if the bank's closed, they'll go to another town. And it's not acceptable. It is not acceptable for a rural community that it's been denuded of financial services in the way that has happened with the banks. And I don't know whether business in terms of the dealings with banks, I mean, if you're dealing with a bank now, and I do some business with the banks, you know, you couldn't find a bank manager. It's like hen's teeth. They're literally, you phone them up, and the person I want to speak to in the bank is probably maybe in Ballymena or Belfast. He doesn't know you. Next time you ring the person, they're away to some other branch or away to some other job. There is no personal contact any longer with banks. They are not in the real world. They're not in the real world as regards how people do business, how people want to do business, and in a manner that is favourable to business. And I mean, it's clearly another step. Just moving out the bank out of Portadown. There was a bank up the street there sold a few months ago. I'm not quite sure. It closed down in Portadown. Now the other one, the Bank of Ireland, which is a tremendous building, it's one of the better buildings in Portadown, is going to be closed down. So it is totally unacceptable that the banks treat the community with absolute contempt. That's what they're doing. They're treating the community and their customers with absolute contempt. I have business with the First Trust. I used to go into Armagh 2 or 3 days a week. Now I have to go to Dungannon, Lurgan or Newry. I mean, it's unacceptable, folks. And that it's time community had literally spoken, and spoken loud and clear, and sent a message to the banks. This is not on. And I certainly fully support the campaign. Let it be whatever bank it is, and in this case it's the Bank of Ireland, and I certainly support the campaign to retain it.
Councillor Macaulay. Councillor Baxter,
what was that about?
Councillor Baxter, or sorry, Councillor Macaulay.
It wasn't me shouting peekaboo anyway. No, just really to concur with the remarks that the members have said there, and I couldn't agree more with Alderman Spears there. I think, you know, the banks have made up their mind. It's deja vu once again. We have seen this in towns like Rathfriland which have no banks left at all. So, you know, the footfall in our town centres are just decimated by this, and these banks don't take elderly population into consideration. They don't take the struggling rural dwellers that have absolutely useless broadband facilities in their homes. So yes, I know probably a large percentage of us here even tonight use online banking and stuff like that. So, and that's just the sign of the times. That's the way we're going, unfortunately. But it decimates our town centres, and I certainly would be happy enough to support the proposal tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Burns.
Yes, Chair, I would certainly support the proposal. And as Councillor Macaulay says, we've been here before. I remember when they were closing Rathfriland banks and all, we tried to argue the case, and they kept on saying that unfortunately online banking is what the people want to do. Not necessarily. As I said to them, that's what you want them to do so that you can close your branches down. I refuse to do online banking despite the arguments with the bank. I prefer to go into the branch. And when I went in the last day in the Ulster Bank in Banbridge, and the lady said to me, you can do this online. And I says, no, I'm trying to keep you in a job. I would prefer to come in here. And that's the way it is. But you see, the banks have you, because the most of people who bank, say in the likes of the Bank of Ireland in Banbridge, they'll tell you that your account's now in Newry. Well, I would refuse to go to Newry or Lurgan or anywhere else. I would move my bank to some other bank that's going to stay. And perhaps in the towns and villages, if that was done, where a bank's closing and there's another bank, move to it. Because if they get the business, they mightn't close that one down. But I certainly agree that you know, with the proposal there, that this is going to take all the banks out of our towns and villages, and that seems to be where they want to go. If you can bank online, you don't need a branch. So that's why I refuse to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Burns. Okay, so we've got our proposer and a second there for the cross-party delegation. I take it we're all agreed?
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on now to agenda item number 7, which is the Tourism, Arts and Culture report. There are 2 decision items and 2 items for information. The first item is on events update. Brian, could I bring you in at that point?
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. So this is the proposed approach for events in the first half of 2021. The report highlights the context for where the recommendations came from. This has been a cross council working group that has looked at this, so that we're approaching this exactly the same throughout council. So the recommendation is recommended that all council events are postponed, cancelled, or delivered online up until the end of June 2021, and that this is constantly kept under review. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, do we have a proposal?
Happy to propose, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nelson. Do we have a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you very much, Alderman Anderson. Agreed? Okay, thank you very much. Brian, could you take the second item?
Chair, so this report relates to correspondence received from Libraries NI regarding the Cultural Heritage Service in County Armagh, and the report sets again out the context. So it is recommended that members consider the response from Libraries NI and agree the next steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Brian. And I'm happy to propose a recommendation. Brian, what I propose would be, obviously this has been debated quite a bit, and obviously it's essential we retain this Irish Reference Library within Armagh City. And in a location where it is accessible within our town centre, not out to Newry Road. which I know could be part of the proposal. So I would like to see some sort of Armagh DEA group set up, or working group discussion of how we as a council group, all party can ensure and move forward to try and find a suitable location for this facility under one roof. I know there has been, I was involved in or declaring interest in the early doors in St. Patrick's Tree. There was a project for it. But again, I think it's time to review that and see where we're at, because I think if we don't do this, we could find that libraries will go and make their own decisions. So, but happy to propose, Chair, and thank you, Brian, for the report.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
Sure.
Oh yeah, sorry, Vice Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And look, I'm happy to second. First of all, I think we need to thank Brian and the team behind the engagement with Libraries NI. This is a good first result in that that it's been secured in Armagh. Like Councillor Nicholson, I would be very keen that the library provision is retained in the heart of Armagh City. I would be completely opposed to the long-term solution being based at the Newry Road, because to me, that would then, in a couple of years' time, we'd be told the footfall isn't there, and it'll be moved on somewhere else. Councillor Nicholson is right in that there was a previous proposal for the use of the St. Patrick's Tree complex, but at that time, the facility which we would have known as the TIC, the Tourist Information Centre, wasn't available. That is now available, and I think that needs to be brought into part of the mix. I think that that whole quarter of Armagh, down around the Shambles, we've seen the buildings opposite those TIC buildings has all been renovated at present. We've seen the creation of the Culturland with Inatwaka. I think that has really developed that whole cultural quarter in Armagh City, and it's sitting cheek by jowl with the Marketplace Theatre. So to me, that's where the ideal situation is, or location is going forward. So I would be keen that it is retained both for Armagh, in the heart of Armagh City, and would be more than happy to second a proposal by Councillor Nicholson that we form that Armagh DEA group, that work takes forward, and that we invite Jim O'Hagan, the Chief Executive and the Chair of Libraries NI, and whoever we need to be in terms of the officer board, down to Armagh as soon as the timing allows, with restrictions, to walk the town, walk the city centre, and make sure that we get that is secured for the city centre. I think that is imperative going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Keating.
Yes, Chair, very similar remarks to what have already been said. It is very key, and having been privy to the discussions around it on the library board, listen, something had to give with it, but certainly the current place is not an ideal location for it. And it was on account of the representations that were made by this council and from all the people engaged with it, that they abandoned their initial plan to sort of break the collection up and send the vast majority of it to Lurgan. But it's very much on the basis of us keeping it in Armagh City, but not long term at the Newry Road site. We really do need to take advantage of the current state of play to find a long term solution in the city centre, because as Councillor Han alluded to there, it will be assessed on footfall, and in a couple of years down the line, if we haven't made any inroads into trying to, and that goes for all the library services, promote them better and get people using them more, and using it as a hook to bring in tourism, literary tourism, and for even just the local population to use more effect, then we'll be in this position again and I'll have no fallback position. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Spears.
Chairman, I certainly support the comments in relation to it. I certainly welcome the interim solution that has been advanced in terms of retaining it currently in Armagh. Yes, I agree the Newry Road headquarters is not a consumer friendly, so to speak, location in terms of it's more the commercial end where books is all stored and whatever and the vehicles. But I certainly totally echo the comments as were made as regards the potential. If libraries and whatever, it's a bit like banks. They bring people to a location, and that location, in my opinion, has got to be in the city centre. So in that, I certainly fully support. There was an ongoing liaison, and the last time we met as a group, it did include, I'm not sure what it included all CUSER councillors, but I would hope that grouping would still continue in terms of looking at the way forward in terms of location and discussion about location for the library in future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank
Chair,
you.
can I just make a slight amendment? I know normally what we would have 2 from each party. So if it's either calling it Armagh, CUSER, or 2 from each party, I have no hang up of Councillor Nicholson's. Happy to amend that. That means then that everyone is represented.
Councillor Nicholson.
Yes, Chair. Like I did say that it need to be all party delegation. So yeah, absolutely. Look, the more the merrier. I think this is too important to get parochial about it. I think it really is. It's an essential service to be retained, and we need to find the right solution where the libraries are happy as well. And obviously, and we retain this much needed service in our town centre. So happy to amend that, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Nicholson. So that's proposed seconder for the creation of an Armagh DAA group to address this matter. Are we all agreed? Yep. Okay. I need a proposer and a seconder for the decision item as well, the overall 7.2, if we could have a proposer and a seconder.
I proposed that, Chair, already.
Oh, sorry, a seconder then, please. Do we have a seconder?
Chair, second.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Okay, there are 2 further information items, 7.3 and 7.4, and the papers are there in front of you. Okay, if there's no queries or questions on those ones, could I have a proposer and a seconder, please, to go into committee to consider the confidential items of business?
Proposed, Chair.
Proposed.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Yeah, Councillor Nicholson and Alderman Anderson, thank you very much indeed. Members and online viewers, in accordance with Schedule 6 of the Local Government Act, we will now be moving into the confidential session of the Council. This means that we will be turning off the public feed of the meeting. This will be returned when the meeting is restarted, and I could ask ICT officers to please turn off the feed and confirm when the confidential section of the meeting can proceed.
Chair, the live feed has resumed.
Okay, thank you very much. Just moving to correspondence, there is no items of correspondence. Any other business? There's no, I've not been advised of any other business. So at that point, we will close the meeting and just thank you everybody for their attendance this evening. Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.